Brent has something that he'd like to say.
Okay. Regarding my critically acclaimed novel, I am very sorry if you were offended. Okay?
Not an apology?
Yes, it was. Okay, fine. I'm sorry if what I wrote, which was perfectly okay, somehow made you feel like it wasn't okay. But you know what? That's on you.
Brent, wrong direction, bud.
No, sorry, man. Either apologize for real or stop wasting our time.
Okay, you know what? I'm actually not sorry at all. How about that? Is that what you want to hear?
Very obviously not. You know what? Why don't we take a break? Let's all get a snack.
Not until they give me the complos I rightly deserve.
You want a complo? I'll give you a complo. I didn't think it was possible to write a book as awful as yours. I literally didn't think human beings were capable of such racist, sexist poppycock. Also, Chip Driver is either a private eye, or the quarterback for the Chicago Bears, or the world's strongest president. He cannot be all three.
So, Zach, you seem like the type of person that likes to make things about you that aren't necessarily supposed to be. Would that be true, or is that reaching?
Oh, yeah. Completely true.
Well, you know, I wonder if this shows a pattern in me, because I didn't, do a lot for my birthday very often growing up.
And
I
you
wasn't
still don't really, do you?
Yeah, no, it's not really my jam, but I did have one time a birthday party where I was allowed to invite a friend over. Mm-hmm. And this was a friend that, I don't know. I feel like our moms were friends when they were in school, and so we just kind of ended up, knowing each other type of thing.
Totally.
But, we didn't go to the same school. We weren't exactly in the same grade. I think he was, a year older than me.
He was 25. I was 9.
Yeah, it was normal stuff. But I have a vivid memory of him singing a patriotic song at my birthday. And it wasn't it was my birthday is at the end of June. So sure, July 4th is right around the corner.
It's coming up. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
End of June. Let me write that down.
But I think he's saying I'm proud to be an American. And I remember my family sitting around and this kid singing. And I think when I was younger, I was like, oh, nice, my friend is singing, I like this. But now that I'm thinking back on it, I'm surprised, or I'm sure that my African-American family was ripping this poor kid to shreds the second that his mom came to pick him up.
No, talking about me being this type of guy, and thank you for opening by relating it to me, because you knew
You're
I
welcome.
would
I
not
knew
be
you
listening.
Wouldn't listen otherwise. Mm-hmm.
I think that if you had told that story, we weren't friends when we were that young. I made sure of it. I did not like Steven when we were young.
He made it a point.
I feel like if you told that story but replaced friend with young Zach, it would make perfect sense.
Yes.
Me making your birthday party about me as I sing a song to your black family ripping the shit out of this stupid white kid. That reminded me of a couple things. The Christmas tradition every year for a while when I was the only kid was Christmas morning, I would sit in this little baby rocking chair every year until I was getting too old for the rocking chair, for sure. And I would read the Christmas story out of the Bible.
Nice.
Every Christmas morning. And the only reason I loved it was because everybody listened to me talk for 25 minutes. Mm-hmm. I really did.
I think it was
grow up to be
a
a
bold
podcaster.
version to attempt to read it in Aramaic, but I do respect it.
Well, after a while, as an actor, it gets a little tiresome to do the same thing. So I picked up the Quran. Yeah, they weren't a fan of that. No, the other thing it reminded me of was the couple of birthday parties I had. Us whites love having birthday parties, and white parents love having a party for their kids that is probably more a statement about them more than it has anything to do with the kid.
Yeah, a lot of
two birthday parties that
Pirates
come to mind.
Birthday party.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Into the Time Knife. The two birthday parties that come to mind is one, the year that my birthday party was at McDonald's at the Play Place in Anderson.
Oh, that sounds tight.
And my only request was that everyone's present for me be books.
Were you pissed when somebody brought you a toy? You were like, I don't fucking want to play.
Really expensive, the coolest toy of the year. I'm like, what the fuck? Give me some Dickens or get the fuck out, Spencer.
Hemingway didn't play with My Little Pony.
No, everyone brought me books. It was cool. I got a lot of books.
Nice. Did you read them?
Did I read the books? Of course they did. I think I remember getting some Magic Treehouse and being really excited about that.
Oh, Magic Treehouse was lit. So just tying it into the episode. So Janet's thing about people not reading the books they get isn't 100% true.
That's true. If you're me, and I don't think I speak for the world at large, though. At all. The other birthday party was the year that I was really into the live-action Kenan Thompson Fat Albert movie. Like, so into it. When that movie came out on DVD, I would go around and brag to people that I could perform the first 10 minutes of it.
And then you would proceed to perform the first 10 minutes of it, whether they responded or not.
Looking back, the first 10 minutes of it, it's like not Fat Albert cartoon. It's like the human girl character in like high school. So it's probably lines like, yo, Moesha. And so imagine like 6-year-old or however old I was, Zach Pruitt in a full black scent performing the first 10 minutes of Kenan Thompson's Fat Albert movie. So one of my birthday parties was that I made everyone go see it in the theater. And we were the only people in the theater because the movie had been out for a long time at that point. Yeah. And so my friends, we all used the movie theater as like a playground, basically. There's like a platform and people were like climbing up on the platform and jumping off of it and shit. We were really young. And I remember being so pissed because I wanted them to watch the movie.
Like, guys, you're going to miss the part. He's about to come through the TV.
For a reason.
Hi, everybody, look, it's a little tiny screen, but he's going to come all the way through it.
I wish I could go into the TV. Then I would have friends. They would understand. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Into the Time Knife, a Good Place Rewatch. I'm Zach, and I've got legs like Jessica Rabbit from that movie.
I'm Steven, and I didn't think it's something clever, but I would like to take this moment to thank Chidi for throwing a real sexy punch.
All right, sure. Welcome to the podcast, everyone. I'm glad you joined us. Of course, we have to start out the program by shouting out our $10 and up patrons over at patreon.com/can't disappoint podcast. Those people, of course, are Mary Baker Budisa, Danny M. Lugo, Justin Fortier, Lil S. Haker, and Autumn Marsh. We love these people very, very much. We're very glad that they support us. And Steven, I think it's like time that we beg, right?
Okay,
why don't you beg for the people a little? Will you do my begging for me, please?
Put your loving hands out, baby.
I'm regretting asking you to do this. That's not what I asked for at all. People, times are hard out here. We would love a few more patrons over at patreon.com/can't disappoint podcast. Keep this show going, starting at $5 a month. Steven said if we don't get 18 new patrons by the end of the month of February, he's quitting the podcast. He said that. So get those rates up so we can keep Steven around.
Begging by Maniskin.
We do all kinds of stuff over at Patreon, like The Basement, I almost said The Basement, our Into the Time Knife rewatch podcast. The Basement, our That 70s Show rewatch podcast, where we're rewatching all of That 70s Show and having a real fun, loose, basement-y stoner circle time talking about that show over there, along with our live pre-show that we do before we record this podcast, and this podcast a week early every week. Patreon.com/can't disappoint podcast. Steven, how was your week?
We feel good. Ooh, we feel so good. My week was good, Zach. I got a haircut.
Is that Chance the Rapper?
No, that was the thing that they used to make us
sounds
yell.
Like something he would do at the end of a sentence.
In the school assemblies. It
sounds like a Chance the Rapper song to me.
Chance the Rapper famously led our school assemblies. He wasn't in blackface, but he was dressed as a Native American chief.
Yes, that's a deep cut. It makes sense if you are us.
Yeah. It was good, getting ready to go to San Antonio for a competition in a couple days. So, prepping for that. I'm wearing a do-rag now. The YouTube viewers can see that. Watch some things, Zach.
Sure. While you're in Texas, I want you to eat some good barbecue for me.
Okay, I will. I'll give you the review.
I want you to get something specific, actually. I want you to get some good, the thick sliced brisket.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Sure. Brisket,
if
slice
you
it thick.
don't come back next week with a full review and description of some thick, make sure they slice it thick.
I'm going to be in San Antonio, though, which is pretty South Texas.
That's like Mexican food. Okay, so
That's more
tell them
Tex-Mex.
to bring you the thickest slice of brisket
But
that they
somebody, a student who's from San Antonio, did tell me that just a little bit north of San Antonio, there's a place called Salt Lick that had really good barbecue. So I'm going to try that
Nice.
out. Yeah.
If you don't send me a picture of a huge silver tray
Yeah.
with 3 slices of brisket, a small taste of pulled pork or something, the
Yeah.
saddest looking mac and cheese, 3 carrots, and like probably, I don't know, maybe some,
A
What
wilted
else?
celery stick.
yeah, in a hard, soft roll, and tell me
I'll
that
do
it
that.
cost $85, I'll be so disappointed.
And I waited 6 hours in line for it.
Have you ever been to Texas for anything before?
No, it's my first time in
Nice.
Texas. I watched Rick and Morty, Zach. I watched the new season.
Okay.
There's
Do you
some
like
good-
it? Where do you stand now on the controversy? Do you think it's cool that they ousted Justin Roiland, and do you think it's fine without him?
Yeah, it's probably good that they ousted him if he's a bad guy. But wasn't he? I don't know how that all played out.
I don't think he is. I think he was
in trouble?
I think the trial was thrown out.
Yeah,
But
I think so
don't
too.
think anyone that works for that show felt like, great, we got to get this guy back now. I think
Yeah.
they were like,
I'll say like the
See ya.
voices at least were close enough that I didn't notice
Okay.
any difference. I kind of forgot that he wasn't there anymore until I remembered. So the voices were good. There were some really standout episodes. The finale was really, really good. Fun. Very little Jerry though. There's like one
He's
really
one of my
Jerry
favorite
episode,
characters.
and then the rest of the season, not a lot of Jerry. Not a lot of Beth either, which is fine because the last season was like all Beth.
literally.
Yeah, all Beth all the time.
Oscars watch continues.
Mm-hmm.
I've almost seen 50% of the full-length films nominated for the Oscars. I've got until March 10th to watch the rest and the short films. I won't go through it all, but I watched 2 of the Best Picture nominees recently, being American Fiction and Anatomy of a Fall. Both I thought were good to really good. American Fiction I wanted to love. It has moments that are really funny, and it also surprised. You know what it's about, right? Have you seen
Yeah.
the trailer for American Fiction? I expected it to just be a full-out farce, and
Yeah.
what surprised me is that there's a big like family drama at the core of it. It
Really?
almost has nothing to do with the book plot, and I was refreshed by that because I went in thinking of what type of movie it was going to be, and it
Yeah.
gave me something different. But I also kind of wish it was a little funnier. And there are moments that I wish would have gone in even harder than what it does. But it is good, and it's written by a Good Place writer. Cord Jefferson wrote
Heyo.
American Fiction, and I don't think it's impossible for him to walk away with a screenplay Oscar that night. So how cool would that be?
That'd be
while
really
we're
cool.
talking about The Good Place, one of the final season writers wins an Oscar. That'd be neat.
That'd be pretty freaking awesome.
And then I watched Anatomy of a Fall, another film up for a bunch,
That
including
looks
Best
good.
Picture. And I thought it was so good. The only reason it's not 5 stars in my book is because I feel like I need to watch it again because the ending didn't leave me with like a pit in my stomach. And I kind of wanted it to. But the first 2/3, even 3/4 are some of the best filmmaking I've seen in years.
Wow.
And some of the best acting I've ever seen in a movie. It's so real and it's so good. And then the last part of it, there's nothing wrong with it. I just think I need to think about it for a while before I'm excited about how it
Gotta
ends.
let
But
it simmer.
if you have, it's a 2.5 hour long movie, but we watched it kind of late last night and it kept me invested the whole time. If you've got some time to set aside for cinema, I think Anatomy of a Fall would be a good choice. Anything else you want to mention, or do you want to get into The Good Place? I'm down to talk about The Good Place.
Let's yeah, you know what? Here's a novel idea, Zach.
Sure.
Let's talk about The Good Place.
Let's get into the episode of The Good Place we're talking before the 30-minute mark of the podcast.
Yeah, sure, I guess. We'll give it a try. We'll see.
We'll try it.
Yeah.
I love that, though, because, of course, people clicked on one of our podcasts for the first time because of either Community or The Good Place. But I like to think that people that are listening every week, it's become because they like to listen to us talk.
Well, at this point, Zach, we might have some beboppers here, too.
That's true. That is
Write
true.
down in the
and
comments. Tell us
I haven't
what brought you here.
shouted that out in a while. We're getting very close to the final episode being released for free of Brokeback Bebop. So go check out Brokeback Bebop, and whether you're a first-time Cowboy Bebop watcher or a super fan, it's a fun podcast. I think you'll enjoy it, and you can listen to almost all of it for free now. Pretty cool. But
pretty
today,
cool.
we're here to talk about another episode of The Good Place's final season. We're talking about season 4, episode 6. This is chapter 45, and it's called A Chip Driver Mystery. This episode was directed by Steve Day. This is his first and only directing credit on The Good Place. Outside of The Good Place, he only has really directed a few things, including 2 episodes of The Last Man on Earth, which is a show that I really
that
like.
show.
What I found interesting is that Steve Day has been like the second unit director or assistant director on like 100 things, including many Mike Schur projects like Parks and Rec and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So I believe this was, as this show is ending, Mike Schur throwing bones to a few of the people that have been working with him for a long time.
Yeah.
He was the second unit director or assistant director on things including the 1997 film starring Matthew Perry called Fools Rush In. Do you know
Love
this
that movie. Owned it on VHS.
He was the assistant director on 7 episodes of Weeds, 1 episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Weeds.
He was the second unit director of the motherfucking Lego movie.
Wow.
Which
movie we
is
both hold near and dear.
so good. You don't have Spider-Verse without the Lego movie.
Yeah.
And I
Sure.
think that movie still deserves to be held in conversation with that film. He was the assistant director or unit director on 67 episodes of Parks and Recreation. He was the assistant director of the movie Pop Star with the Lonely Island Boys, which is super underrated and very funny. He was the assistant director on 26 episodes of Last Man on Earth. You shrugged. I think maybe it's worth a revisit with different expectations than the first time you watched it.
I didn't have good expectations the first time I watched it.
I
thought
think you
it
should
looked
still watch
bad.
it again anyway. Have you seen it? Yes.
Yeah. I didn't like
That's super but you also don't like Walk Hard that much.
it. Correct.
And I would hold them in similar conversation with each other. And I think you are in the minority of that opinion. I think most people like these movies.
Interesting. Maybe I'm just a cinema snob.
That's okay. You're allowed to like and dislike. I just want you to know that you are wrong. You're allowed to like what you want, but you need to know that you're wrong in this one. Okay. He also was on 26 episodes of Last Man on Earth, 3 episodes of Veep, and outside of the
Veep.
1 episode of The Good Place that he directed, this is a good full circle way to end our discussion of Steve Day. He was an assistant director or unit director on 23 episodes of The Good Place. So he's been working on the show
So
a
he
ton.
knows the show, yeah.
And it kind of goes to show there is a list of at least 100 people who don't just write or direct a couple episodes of the show, that work on every single episode of the show to
Wow.
give it the look. You know what I'm saying? Like the
Yeah.
props people, the set people, the costume people. And we only give attention to the director and the writer. So Steve Day getting to direct this episode makes me
pretty
think
cool.
that we should be shouting out all of the people that work on the production of The Good Place. And I will find a list of the complete credits and read it out at the beginning of each podcast from now on. We'll just read the entire end credits. What do you think?
Well, I feel like when we did Community, we would very often shout out the props department and the set dressing team. But The Good Place does, maybe less of the meta inside jokes, but it does have a lot of
a good
detail
point.
going on in the back. Everything from the chalkboards when Chidi's teaching in class to all the different establishments
Yeah.
and businesses and extras in the background of the show. There's so much attention to detail that is paid there.
And it goes to show the vision with this show that even if they didn't have the whole plot planned out, they certainly had the look from the beginning, and they nailed it at the beginning, and they kept it through for the
They
entire
kept it,
series,
yeah.
even in this episode. Great work. This episode was written by Lizzie Pace, who also, this is her
Lizzie
only
McGuire?
writing. No, Lizzie Pace, who only wrote this episode of The Good Place, and actually hasn't written a lot.
Well, she can't write or read, Zach. So the fact that she wrote
Lizzie
an episode
McGuire?
of television is very impressive. Yeah. Gordo, famously dyslexic.
So what we do over on The Basement, because David Traynor directed every episode of that 70s show, is each week we focus on one of the shows that he worked on. Lizzie Pace wrote 1 episode of a specific show, and it's one of her only writing credits. So we're going to talk about this show. She wrote 1 episode of a show that only lasted for 1 season and 13 episodes from 2014 to 2015. This show is called Bad Judge. Do you remember this? Do you hear about this?
Maybe in an SNL skit. I don't
It
know.
stars Kate Walsh as the titular bad judge.
I do remember this show, actually.
And I might be wrong. Maybe it's just in the title. But do you remember that they made a TV show of the movie Bad Teacher that also lasted like 1 season?
Yeah.
I think this might be in the same universe. but maybe I'm wrong.
Bad Teacher's the movie where Justin Timberlake
Cameron
dry
Diaz.
humps Cameron Diaz, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Know it well.
Well, Lizzie Pace wrote one episode of Bad Judge. The tagline for this show, okay. A hard-living, sexually unapologetic woman plays with the law, and her life on the edge is constantly in balance, as she also happens to be a judge in the criminal court system. That's a bad sentence.
Yes, it is.
A hard-living, sexually unapologetic woman plays with the law, and her life on the edge is constantly in balance, as she also happens to be a judge in the criminal court system. That's a bad sentence.
Yes, and also they're under attack, but not until secret long-lost mom shows up.
Lizzie Pace wrote one episode of Bad Judge, the series finale, season 1, episode 13, fittingly titled Case Closed. And the description for this episode was drama with Michelle's ex-husband threatens Rebecca's chances of breaking a courtroom record. This show sounds bad. It sounds pretty bad, right?
None of those words had anything to do with each other.
And this show, The Good Place, a Chip Driver mystery, originally aired on October 31st on Halloween.
Whoa,
This
spooky.
episode aired on Halloween of 2019. So we're going to talk about October 31st, 2019, the number one movie, the number one album from this date in 2019. Get this. We're not going to talk about the number one movie because it's still Maleficent 2.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about the number 2 movie because it's still Joker. We've talked about that. We're not going to talk about the number 3 movie.
Abominable still there, huh?
No, which is the animated Addams Family movie that we talked about a while back.
A while ago.
So we're going to talk about the number 4 movie at the U.S. box office.
Detective
This
Pikachu.
is a horror comedy sequel.
Anything else?
It focuses on a core cast of 4 characters played by pretty big movie stars.
Oh, this is It Too?
No. Comedy. I would not call It 2 a comedy on purpose. If you can't see, Steven's kind of doing the Pennywise dance from the first one. You don't have it. It's a more comedy than horror.
Okay,
You might
so maybe
have
we're looking
forgotten
at
this
a
movie got a
Ghostbusters
second
thing.
one? No.
The Lady Ghostbusters 2?
You think they got a second one? No. Finn Wolfhard Ghostbusters 2 is coming out soon, though.
Yeah.
We're talking about Zombieland : Double Tap.
Oh, I saw this.
I haven't seen the second one, but I've seen the first one. Did you like the
I saw
second
the second
one?
one once. I don't remember a goddamn thing about it.
Yeah, all the people come back. Who is it? Jesse Eisenberg,
Woody Harrelson, Emma
Woody
Stone.
Harrelson, Abigail Breslin, and Emma Stone. Right. So since the first one, all of these people got even more famous, and then like all 4 of them, other than maybe Abigail Breslin.
Abigail, yeah,
and
she was
they
kind of
all, but she
tail
grew up a lot, and they all come back to make the second one, which I didn't see, but the first one's great.
Yeah.
Well, you don't remember a goddamn thing about this movie, but you did see it. Rotten Tomatoes. What do you think the critics think of Zombieland : Double Tap out of 100?
46.
No, it's higher.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Then we're looking at a crisp 63?
No, it's even higher at 68%.
Oh, I was going to go 69. I would have been close.
That's pretty solid for a critic score on a comedy sequel or a horror sequel. 68's pretty good.
I'll take that.
What about the audience? Do you think they're higher or lower on Zombieland? Duh.
Maybe a little lower. Let's go. Are they still in the 60s? Maybe 65?
You're wrong. It's higher than 68%. Give it one more guess. No, they're sitting at 88%.
Wow, that's great. Maybe I need to watch this again.
Yeah. We'll have to do a double feature of Abominable followed by Zombieland Double Tap.
Double Tap. Mm-hmm.
I like how now that Abominable movie that we had never heard of or thought about before is now something we've mentioned like on every podcast since we talked about it. We need to watch it.
Yeah, I think we should watch Abominable.
Letterboxd, the People's app, the working day armchair critic over at Letterboxd. What do you think they think of Zombieland Double Tap? I've translated it to out of 100. Going from 68 critics, 88 audience, where does Letterboxd sit?
79.
It is lower. Take one more stab.
71.
No, it's lower than both Rotten Tomatoes score at 60%, which is still not bad. 6 out of 10 is fine.
That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. The number one album this week is much like last week's Super M Jopping. It's not a K-pop artist, but it is an artist that had a number one album that I have never fucking heard of. And I have no idea how to get you to this. So I'm going to start by giving you the hint that this is in a sequel album.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the words in this album is an acronym for the thing that everyone was scared of during the writer's strike.
Reality TV?
No. Okay. And since that didn't give you anything, I'm going to give you a couple of the single names, starting with the third release to the first release, which would have been the lead single. The first single name I'm going to give you from this rap album, I think.
Okay.
It's a sequel album. I'm going to give you a single that's called Make No Sense. You can cash in another one if that doesn't give it.
Yeah, give me another one. I think I'm on the right track, though.
We're going to go with the lead single, Self-Control.
This is going to be... Fuck.
It's the number one album. I've been like kind of blown away by some of these.
Can you tell me what people were scared of during the writer's strike? What?
AI.
Oh. Okay.
I can give you one more song name. This is the second single, and I'm only giving it to you because it's the weirdest title, so if you know it, this might give it away. Slime Mentality.
Okay, this is... You've heard of Young Thug, so it's not Young Thug.
That's not who this is. No.
So that means it's either Gunna...
Young is in the artist name.
Is it Young Lean?
No, this artist name is 4 words.
NBA Youngboy?
Yes.
Youngboy Never Broke Again.
Yes.
Okay, this is I don't know his fucking album titles. I don't listen to him.
Well, you know it has AI in the title. Do you want? And it's a sequel album. Do you want to give a guess just based on that information?
AI 2. Young AI.
You're so close. AI 2 with the word in the middle.
AI
and Young is on the right track
because his AI means Allen Iverson. Okay. AI Streets.
No, Young is part of the
AI Youngboy 2.
Yeah, you got it. 100 points, Stephen Baker. We got there. The number one album this week was AI Youngboy 2 by Youngboy Never Broke Again.
So NBA Youngboy like regularly breaks YouTube records for like views, like first day views on music videos, because Youngboy Never Broke Again fans can't afford a streaming service, so they flock straight to YouTube to listen to his music,
and
which is
like
why he gets
through the
so
song
many
there's
YouTube
an
views.
ad, and then 3/4 through the song there's another ad.
Yeah. There's a lot of jokes online about like people that listen to NBA Youngboy because it's like Black Air Force energy. It's like how people who listen to NBA Youngboy pay for things, and it's somebody like fully clinching like $1 bill and handing it to someone. Like it's that kind of vibe.
Those people must have been handing over their clutched $1 bill because this was the number one album, and that is, I don't know all the metrics that go into it in 2019, but album sales is a big part of it. So people were buying it. What do you think of NBA Youngboy, or are you too classist?
I've heard some
to
feature
this
verses
music
of his that have been fine. Okay. I don't think his music is for me for where I am in life right now. But I've heard some of his features
for like a younger crowd, you think?
I mean, maybe when I was like listening to a lot of hood rat shit, but
now
I listen to a different kind.
You said that in a way that is kind of like looking down on the hood rat shit. Are you against this?
I listen to more sophisticated drug rap now.
Like what?
I don't know. That's the Benny
like
the Butcher.
Jesus is King too.
Or Jesus, exactly that. You know, like Pusha T, Freddie Gibbs, Griselda, them boys. Where it's still very
Griselda,
thuggish.
One of the ugly stepsisters from Cinderella, is she not?
Yeah, she got some bars.
Let's talk about AI Youngboy 2 by Youngboy Never Broke Again. Starting with all music, what do you think they gave it to the first decimal out of 5?
2.0.
It is higher.
2.9.
No, it's a 3.5 out of 5.
Wow,
from all
that's pretty solid. A 7 for NBA.
So moving over
Youngboy.
to rate your music, why do you need to call it a 7? And it's a 3.5 out of 5. That speaks plenty. Sure, we could multiply anything by it. We could add anything to itself and make a new number.
35 out of 50.
75 out of 100.
Yeah.
No.
70 out of 100.
70. Fuck. All Music gave it a 3.5 out of 5. What about Rate Your Music, the letterboxed of music, out of 5 to the second decimal point compared to a 3.5?
2.1.
You're wrong. It's higher. And let me give you this fact to help your guess. This album was the 41st highest rated album of 2019 on Rate Your Music of all albums released in 2019.
4.1?
It was 41. Lower.
3.8.
Lower. It's a 3.23. But 41 for the year is pretty high.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you, young boy. Never broke again.
Well, now that we've gone through all that, and now we're 30 minutes into the podcast and can actually talk about The Good Place.
Exactly.
Starting with one of my favorite moments of the podcast every week, and I know it's one of yours too. That is, of course, when we find out, did Steven watch the episode this week?
This week. I normally like to do it to like a tune of a song that whoever like the artist is, but I cannot sing or hum. Does he have melodies?
You're asking the wrong guy.
Couldn't
you
tell
heard
you.
how
Sorry.
I said his name. You're asking the wrong guy. How are you
know
feeling
why
this week?
he's had to stop going by NBA Youngboy? Because the National Basketball Association sent him a cease and desist. Yeah. So now he's Youngboy Never Broke Again exclusively.
Yeah. Well, how are you feeling this week with the task at hand? A chip driver mystery is kind of a unusual Good Place episode, I think, not in a bad way. But how do you think that's going to relate to you trying to tell us everything that happened?
I don't know, because it's kind of all over the place, but there's also kind of one plot line, 1.5. Do you count the Michael Janet thing as a plot line?
Well, it's like the framing device.
Yeah.
But hey, I can't help you. I'm not giving you any information. You've got to give us all the information. With 20 seconds on the clock, are you ready? It doesn't look like it.
Yeah, I'm going to go for it, Zach.
Okay.
I'll do it. I'm going to try.
You have to.
I'm going to do the segment.
I'm glad that you feel that way, but whether you said anything, I still would have forced you to do it.
I've agreed to do it.
Yeah,
I'm going to step out of my comfort zone.
On go. 3, 2, 1, go.
As Michael recounts the tale that has transpired to a bad Janet the day before her release, we learn that Brent wrote a book after a fun ski trip that shows he hasn't grown as much. He made characters of everyone else that are really racist and rude, and Simone's not taking that shit. Then she hurts Brent's feelings because he's fragile. Michael tries to get him to change, but he's not gonna. Oh.
Yeah, you spent too much time on the framing device.
Yeah.
And also, you even got that wrong. It's not the day before her release. It's the day of her release. Because the whole thing is you have to listen to this whole story, and then I'll take care of you.
I believe at the beginning of the episode, Michael says, you have one day left.
A fucking
and
fact
then I think at
that
the
it's
end
day
he
of her
decides
release.
to let her fucking go.
No,
early.
He says, I'm going to let you go, but first you have to listen to this whole story. You're wrong. But what I'll say is then I think you kind of made up for it a little bit when you calmly and succinctly started to tell the Brent story. We didn't get anything of Chidi. We didn't get enough of Simone. We didn't get enough
Tahani
of Eleanor.
or Jason.
We didn't get enough of Jason or John. There was a lot more you could have done.
Yeah.
But I also, for whatever reason, don't feel as negative as I have on some other weeks. So I'm just going to give you a C. Just a plain C.
A solid 3.5 out of 5.
I only know what that means if it's out of 10. So you have to give me that again.
It's a solid 7 out of 10.
Oh, okay. So pretty good. Not bad. I don't think a C is a 7 out of 10.
70% is a
70%.
C. Yeah.
I remember thinking that was bullshit in school because a C should be like bad. A C should be like 60.
Well, that's your conditioning from your parents that forced you to value grades over actual personal growth.
Yeah.
You were like, Mama, Papa, I love film and the arts. And they're like, but what'd you get in science class?
Yeah. Mama, Papa, all of that to the T. Let's do some trivia. I've got 8 questions.
I've got probably 1 or 2 more than that.
Go ahead.
How long has Bad Janet been in captivity?
6 months.
Yeah, you got it.
What is John's mantra?
Kate Blanchett saying Rihanna?
Good job.
Oof, okay. Why couldn't Chidi go skiing?
Because he's scared of moving at an angle?
Yeah, moving at an angle terrifies him. That's really funny.
What makes up the halves of 6 feet under par?
Oh, fuck. These aren't going to be in order. Half.
That's okay.
golf
Get as many as you can. I'll be impressed.
tutorial, half mystery, half erotic thriller or erotic something, half mystery, half horror.
Said that already. Said
Yeah,
mystery
I
already.
don't remember the rest.
Let me know when you're done. Keep going.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
I've
You got some of the words. You got some of the words. It's half spy novel, half murder mystery, half submarine adventure, half erotic memoir, half political thriller, half golf tutorial. That's the only one you got fully, and half commentary on society, of course.
Jesus Christ. What is on the back of Brent's book?
It's his author photo, and it's like him in a fighter jet because he likes Top Gun.
Can you
And
give me
there's,
any
like,
other
American
details?
flag.
Yeah, sure. Take it. CP
And he's
tone.
giving a thumbs up.
Nice, yeah.
Okay.
Good job.
What is Tahani's counterpart in the book named?
Something
It's pretty
Pakistan.
racist. Yep.
Yeah.
Pick a starlet first name. Change one letter in starlet.
Yeah, Scarlet
Pakistan.
Thank you. How long do the humans have to read Brent's book?
How long do they have? A day? Is it just a day?
No, we were looking for 2 days. They were 2 days until the book event.
Okay.
Hey,
What?
we're close.
Is Jason's song called?
Fuck you.
That's a good question. That's not a fuck you question.
That's a good
Fuck
question.
You.
Fuck
You
you.
know, fuck you.
Come on, I'm walking here.
If I was behind the wheel of a car, I'd be honking at you so hard right now. Fuck you.
Come on. I don't remember. It was really funny. I really
Do you
liked
remember
it.
the parentheses, the parenthetical?
Parentheses. No.
I love you forever, parentheses, make that booty bounce in the back.
In the bath. Make that booty bounce in the bath.
Bath?
Bath.
I thought it was back.
No, make that booty bounce in the bath.
That's better.
Isn't it? What season of Downton Abbey does John compare the neighborhood to?
That's season 4.
I don't remember why I remember that line so well. Like when I watched it, I was like, I remember exactly him saying that.
Wow. Have I gotten
Yeah.
all of your questions right so far? Am I
You've
staging a
missed
comeback?
one.
Which one?
The how long they had to read Brent's book.
No,
You said one
fuck
day.
you. Is it my turn?
Yeah.
What does Bad Janet say that vindictive nerds are doing on Earth right now?
The vindictive nerds at Apple are changing the, did you say like charging port again? Or
The shape of the charging
shape of the
cable
charging
again.
cable.
But I'll give
Yeah.
that to you.
Yeah, Apple's wild. They change that shit all the time.
That's how they get you to have to get the new phone.
Exactly. Android's only changed once, but the thing they changed to is just the universal new thing now.
And I'll be a dead man before I pick up an Android phone.
I've got one for you.
said
I don't know if
Andrew.
you'll know this one. I could have asked a harder one, but I gave you the easy version of this question. What year was Chip Driver's Cadillac?
My very next question would have been to ask you what car he drives, and it's a 1968 Cadillac.
You got it. You got it.
So give me another one.
Who is John's favorite philosopher?
Oh, I remember this line, but I don't know that person, so the name didn't stick with me. Is it Brittany?
You got the right first letter. I'll give you another crack.
Because
First letter, not name.
Eleanor. So it's Brittany. Bartholomew.
You got it.
I don't know.
Bethany Frankel.
Bethany Frankel. Okay.
You know who she is?
I've heard that name before, but no, I don't really. Do
She
you?
was on Real Housewives of
that
Beverly
makes
Hills
sense.
in New York or something. But she has a lot of money because she invented like the
sure.
skinny
She was
girl
on Real
drinks,
Housewives or
like
something.
the
The skinny
margaritas.
girl.
Are like low calorie or whatever. That
Sure.
all the moms buy.
You know
So
a
she has
lot about
fuck ton
this,
of money.
huh?
She was on Shark Tank. She was a guest judge on there once. Or
I see.
guest Shark.
I see.
Yeah.
Who wears the same dumb shorts every day?
I think this is one of my next questions. Would that be Dumb Shorts Kathy?
Kathy, dumb
That's
shorts.
a
Kathy.
really funny line that I didn't remember. That was funny.
It is funny because it shows how clueless they are to the NPC people. They wear the same clothes every day.
Every day. What were Chip Driver's jobs?
Is this when Tahani's complaining and says, you can't be all three? He's the world's, this is backwards, he's the world's strongest president. He is the quarterback of the Chicago Bears.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember there's the first one left, and I really want to get it. I don't think I do though. What's the first one?
You have a guess?
I just said I'm done.
Okay. You got 2 of the 3 right, but he was a
buzzer's too
private
loud.
eye. That was
Okay,
his main,
sure.
main squeeze. Your turn.
I have one last question for you. How much is a copy of Brent's book?
$65?
Yes, and I
I
really
remember
like the
thinking
line
that's
at the
more
end
than a AAA video game.
when Michael says, "No, I didn't have any cash, so I couldn't buy you a copy." Sorry.
That was really funny. My last question: what does Michael do when Bad Janet leaves?
He sprays Lysol, yellow can of Lysol.
I was gonna need Lysol for sure, and you got it. You got it, pal. You did pretty
Thank
well.
you.
You only missed like
1 or 2.
3.
3. That's not great. No, we're back to 7 out of 10, aren't we?
Can you reduce that for me?
Yeah, I think that would be 1 point. Let's talk about the episode. I mentioned up front that I think this is a strange episode, but I think it's a good episode. I actually like this episode a little bit better than last week's episode. I just don't know that this episode needs the framing device of Michael telling the story to Bad Janet.
I feel 100% the exact same way. The whole time I was thinking, why is it being told from that perspective? Like, I'm fine with it, but it just wasn't necessary at all. I would have liked.
It made me wonder if like Darcy Carden was busy this week. So
Maybe.
As Janet, she's only in like one scene, and then she could have filmed her stuff with Michael in like one day.
Mm-hmm.
But I did think it was strange, and I think a couple of things are strange about this episode and where it fits in the season, because Janet's just back. There's absolutely no discussion of her returning from being held captive in the bad place. And for this Bad Janet story, we learn, like, there's a telling line where Michael says, "You and I have been debating whether people are good or bad for 6 months now. We should have seen that before this."
Yeah.
And then this episode and the framing device would have made perfect sense. Outside of that, though, I think this is a really good episode because it's one of those episodes that's like, what if The Good Place was a 20-episode sitcom that could do episodes about one of the characters wrote a bad book and he wrote all of the gang into it? But it's one of the last times that we're going to get that before the show really changes. And I think it's a good one at that. There's no huge plot development, but I don't think that makes this episode work less. In fact, I like it even more than last week's episode that had plot development but not enough tension. This episode doesn't have that much plot development, but it's really funny, and I like what we get out of pretty much every character in this episode.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the only thing is just weird. And I think maybe that kind of shows that this was written and directed by somebody who hasn't written and directed an episode. Even somebody who's been on the show and helped a lot. This is a different hand at the wheel.
I was going to say it feels not like that to me. It feels like they did a really good job, other than the framing device being strange, but I can't see that being Lizzie Pace's idea.
Yeah.
I thought the writing was really good.
You know Lizzie well. She would...
Yeah. Lizzie and I have talked. She would never come
Case
up
Closed,
with that.
my favorite episode of Bad Judge.
Good call back.
Would not as... I don't know. It's interesting. The whole time I was watching the episode, I was enjoying it, but it does just feel like different, but that might just be because I'm aware so painfully that we only get 1 or 2 more episodes in this plot. So
there's a moment in this episode that I thought it was about to be the end of that. And I was kind of expecting something to happen that doesn't. We'll get to that when we get to it.
Let's
talk through the episode unless you have
we're
any
on the
thoughts.
same page there. No, let's just dive in.
Okay. So yeah, the framing device. I like it's really just that it feels out of place. It's not anything to do with the idea of Bad Janet being kept in this... I don't know. Can you think of I feel like you'd have a quicker example of something else where it's this like really nice, really secluded, really armored cell for a huge wanted criminal. Can you think of a time that's happened in a piece of media?
Sure.
I feel like I've seen this visual before. Is it?
Let's go with like any old Looney Tunes thing where you've got some unbeatable monster chained in a basement, or if you want to get a fancy one, let's go like I don't know, Martha Stewart being in jail.
Sure. Okay. Good enough.
Yeah.
But it's Janet's void, and there's this single maximum security cell that's holding Bad Janet.
Oh, Silence of the Lambs. Isn't Hannibal Lecter in one of them? Isn't he in like a lounge?
I was thinking even more specifically of something that's almost exactly like this, minus the white void. That's literally like I'm thinking there might be like a super villain in something that's kept in something like this.
Yes.
I don't know. It's this maximum security cell. It's holding Bad Janet, and we learn through Michael's exposition.
Magneto in X-Men, I think, is in a thing like that.
Sure, that might even be part of what I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
Bad Janet has been in this cell for 6 months, and Michael says at the front that today is her last day. You're fucking wrong. Fuck you!
So she has 1 day left.
Here.
1 day more.
I hope that we don't get any more patrons, so Steven can finally be gone from this podcast.
If we don't get 18, I walk.
It'll be me alone talking into a microphone that got repossessed from me to my empty shambles of a life. It'll be better too. It'll be great.
Everything's gonna fall apart. You're gonna
Michael
grow a
says,
beard.
I'm gonna let you go today, but first I've got a story to tell you. I do like Bad Janet's banter in all of these scenes. Her saying, is this going to be one of your humans are good and worthy of respect and not big fat sacks of dookie stories? And Ted Danson's always great, the way that he says things like something like that. The way that I don't know, Michael, you can feel how smart and clever he thinks he is when he responds to people's quips. Yeah. And this is full of that. And then Janet says, okay, real quick before you start. And then it does something that I love when shows do. Not the fart joke, but the fact that the long fart is interrupted by the theme song. And then after the theme song, she's still finishing the same fart.
I like that.
It reminds me specifically of the episode of Community with Jack Black as Buddy, when he's like, I don't want to throw off the natural. And then it goes into the theme song. And after the theme song, he's like, order of things by being here.
I
really like when shows do that. So the fart continues. You're not a fart joke guy, are you? Did this roll your eyes?
I don't mind Janet's farts.
I have no follow-up questions. Bad Janet says, ooh, wow, she's gonna last.
That's good. Good joke.
She asks Michael, I think this is one of the best setups of this. What's that book? Is that your story? And he says, no, this book is something else, but we'll get to it. You'll see. And he begins the story. It starts off right after the end of last week's episode where the gang has been on their ski trip. And after the ski trip, not what Bad Janet says, and they all skied off a cliff and they broke all their bones and their pants fell down and you could see their butts. The end. She waves goodbye. Michael says, no, it's better than that. And it went better than they could have hoped. They're all getting along really well after this ski trip in the lodge from last week. And we get into the main part of things where the gang is coming back. They're all walking as a unit. It's the 4 humans and Jason. And they're talking about the fun trip they had. Of course, Chidi couldn't go skiing because he's afraid of moving at an angle. But he loved all the reading nooks at the lodge. It's like everywhere you go, another place to read. Nooks. Feels like a word I shouldn't say anymore.
Nook? It does sound a bit slurish.
Yeah. What were you about to say? You have your finger on your face as if in thought.
I was thinking about how sweet it is that Eleanor puts a library for Chidi everywhere they go. I think it's
that
cute.
Is pretty cute. Or tons of reading nooks, places to sit. John Yu apparently took them all on a meditation journey. I think John has some really funny asides in this episode. This is the Cate Blanchett one. Yeah. You're not supposed to tell people your mantra. That's like the whole thing, is that it's yours and you don't share it with people. And John's just straight up like, what's your mantra? Mine's Cate Blanchett saying Rihanna. So I thought that was really funny.
I feel like people share their mantras quite often.
I guess it depends on the type of meditation that you do, but I don't think you are supposed to share it. Or at least I've heard contexts where people are like, I can't tell you my mantra. That's mine.
You get into a lot of mantra talk these days?
Yep. Talking monts all day long.
monttalk.blogspot.com.
Brent congratulates Simone because they played gin rummy together and she won. And then she razzes him about, oh, yeah, they didn't teach you that at Rutgers.
That's a really funny one. And they have a back
and forth of, oh, you know I went to Princeton, right? Ah, she's kidding, but you do know that. Yeah, she know, but
that's funny.
This episode is totally full of my argument a couple weeks ago that Brent wasn't that funny in 2019 because Brent was the president at the time.
Yeah.
And now he's just this sad shell of a man you can laugh at. So I was all in really for all of the Brent stuff in this episode. I thought he was really funny.
Yeah, now that we're in the like post Mojo Dojo Casa House United States,
you're so right.
Like he's such a joke, and it's great. It's really funny.
And he was then. I just the cultural context was different. I think.
Yeah, like
even
I remember,
though those
like,
people
really
are still
disliking him, like disliking the character, then being like, "Oh, this guy sucks."
It
like
felt
I don't
like a waste of time in the final season of a show that I love with these characters that I love. But now it doesn't feel like a waste of time because I'm laughing.
Exactly.
So Eleanor back in the office is telling the team, well done, they've done a great job, commenting that Brent has definitely made the most progress. I forget I think Jason says, yeah, when Simone beat him in cards, he didn't flip the table and storm off. He just stormed off. That's big.
I love it.
Tahani's wondering, as many have, if he's actually changing or if he's just trying to get into the super heaven concept that they built, which was a nice bit of continuity from a few weeks ago. And Michael says, well, yeah, but his behavior's changing. That's what's really important. His intention, we can work on later. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that? Do you think that's... I feel like
fine.
Intention is everything.
I think intention is everything, but kind of like... Now, circumstances were very different because Eleanor thought she didn't belong there. And so even though her intentions didn't start as pure and became that, she had opportunities to step up in ways that Brent necessarily doesn't.
She knew that she was at fault for her whole life.
Brent doesn't think that, and so he's like, oh, well, I'm good, but I'll be extra good to make sure I get into this better place. And he doesn't really have an incentive to actually improve as a person.
And instead
of
tougher. Really doing a lot of good, it's turned him into this, well, this place sucks, send me to the next place mentality. Eleanor does a cute drum roll because it's time to crown a couple of office awards for the week. First, the Humanity Savior of the Week, which is going to be Jason for his work with Chidi. Do you think that's the right call, giving it to Jason for his work with Chidi? Did Jason do something with Chidi
giving it
recently?
To Jason
last week? What happened?
Well, it's been 6 months.
Oh, just in general, because Jason and Chidi have been paired together, and Chidi's been keeping Jason's secret. Right.
Yeah, well, and on the ski trip, Jason was the one that was with them. So I think he gets it for that. Even though she said for your work with Chidi, but I took it as he got it for accompanying the humans on the ski trip and it going so successfully.
And knowing what to do and doing it well. That is good for Jason.
The award for Hottest Savior of the Week goes to... Eleanor Shellstrom! Thank you, I accept.
I never win hottest.
I don't know what to tell you, man. Maybe do some squats, pop that booty a little bit.
We see the wall of previous winners behind Eleanor, and it's mostly Eleanor with a few Jasons and a few Janets and a few Tahanis scattered in between, which I thought was really funny. And then we get another moment. There's not a lot to say about the Bad Janet moments, just some funny Bad Janet lines. Mm-hmm. Michael's telling Bad Janet that the ski trip was a real high point, not the hotness contest. That wasn't the high point. Until Brent did something very Brentian, which is a funny way to put it. And Bad Janet says, who could have predicted that? So we cut to Brent doing something very Brentian. He runs up to Simone and Chidi. He says, hey, ski bunnies. Is that what you call people who fuck while they go skiing?
Sure.
Ski bunnies? I feel like that's a thing.
I think you're thinking of the term snow bunny.
Yes, which is, well, we all know very well, you and me, Steven. I mean, we both... I like to keep this show clean.
Uh-huh.
And I want to tell you what I think that is.
Yeah.
And the only way I can do it is to say, no, I'm not going to bleep it. I just want you to know that unlike my typical character, I'm going to say something really dirty.
Okay.
If you and I were snow bunnies, would it mean that at the same time, we have had the same cum in our mouth?
No, not at all.
On separate occasions, we've had the same cum in our mouth.
No.
Whose cum has been in whose mouth, Steven?
Okay, so there's Eskimo brothers.
That's when we both had the same cum in our mouth?
That's when we both had the same. Well, that's when you've been in the same igloo.
Which means vagina. Or vagina.
Yeah, sure.
In today's society.
Any kind of giant.
Any kind of ussy.
Yeah, exactly.
So snow bunnies means
snow bunny
the same thing?
Is just a...
I think I was right.
Normally blonde, normally more on the smaller in size.
I don't
end of the spectrum.
I have no idea
girl.
Where you're getting this from.
Just go into an incognito browser later, Zach, and search snow bunny and see what comes up.
Snow bunny? Where did you say to look it up?
an incognito browser. Turn safe search
I'm looking it up
off.
clean. Snow Bunny is a song by Bootsy Collins.
There we go. What's it about?
That's what we got. What is Snow Bunny slang for? An attractive white woman, like an attractive female who's not that good at skiing and snowboarding, but is like there doing it.
Oh, haven't heard that definition.
I like the cum one better. Hey, ski bunnies. He tells Simone and Chidi, you guys are my nerdiest friends, so I think you would enjoy my new book. 6 Feet Under Par, a Chip Driver mystery. That's when we get the really, really great line. Brent is very funny in this episode, going through all the halves of his book and what it is. And Simone says it's 3.5 books in one. And Brent, without losing a step, goes, at least, and then keeps talking. He wants the two of them to read it in 2 days and introduce him complimentary at a book reading that's happening. I love everything about this. Why does he need to write a book in the afterlife and like sell it? Why does he need to have a book reading? Well, it's just
So
everything
funny.
about it is so Brent, and it's so funny. And it's very much in line with him, like, still complaining about what's wrong with this country.
Yeah.
Even though they're in the good place.
They're
What's
not-
the point of
what
it?
country-
There's no
yeah.
money, someone says at one point.
I think that one of the best things this episode does is the Brent arc from boastful, cocky asshole to absolute child throwing a tantrum. And I think that this is a great start of that, where he's like, yeah, just say really nice things about me. Read the book. You're nerds. You like reading. It's great.
And then the second any criticism is brought his way, he's a little child. He's a real ski bunny.
He's... Yeah.
So Simone goes to Tahani and says that they should get wine drunk and tear the book apart. But Tahani knows that that's not the right thing to do. She doesn't want to make fun. She points out that Brent's been nicer. And even at the ski lodge, he made s'mores for them. He did claim to invent s'mores, but he was making them for other people. And Simone, I think, has some really great stuff in this episode. Here, Simone says to Tahani, well, before you defend him, maybe you should look at the book and read a little bit of it and see the love interest in the book that seems very much like you. So before we get this information, Tahani looks at it and just horrified immediately. Then we cut to the office where members of the gang are reading the book and reading passages about Scarlet Pakistan, the character
was your
that's
drag
clearly based
name,
on
right,
Tahani.
Zach?
Yes. Yeah. They did not like that one. I don't know if it was the pre-filmed tape video camera in a cave video that I put before it, but I ran out of that Ruby Tuesday fast. Scarlet
I
Pakistan.
think the Confederate flag turban didn't help.
Yeah. Well, they didn't see what I was going to do with it at the end because I didn't get to it.
I think it was all you were wearing was the concerning part.
I was gonna take it off. Scarlet is the type of girl you couldn't take in all at once or you'd die. The girl who had brown eyes, as brown as the brownest crayon. She had legs like Jessica Rabbit from that movie.
It's almost like when you see, like, I had an AI write an Olive Garden commercial. It's got that same vibe of, like, Brent. He's like, okay, I've heard voiceovers at the beginning of a movie that I fell asleep 10 minutes into. I can write a book.
Eleanor scoffs. She apologizes to Tahani, but Tahani's really not bothered by it yet. She's been through way worse. Who is Sylvia Berlusconi? Is that like an ex of Elon Musk's?
I didn't look it up.
I didn't either.
I was thinking it was going to be a gross guy.
I won't put on incognito mode to look up cum buddies, but I will put on incognito mode to look up anything related to Elon Musk. I don't want that shit on my digital footprint. Michael is reasoning that this might be tough because there's already a big strain between Simone and Brent, and this might make it harder. The relationship is difficult because Simone makes snap judgments, and then Brent goes and confirms every snap judgment that she makes about him. And someone says, I think, Michael, we need her to believe that Brent is better than his worst actions. Like saying, picks up the book, Tahani has an accent like the Queen of England, but without any of the gross face parts. Cut to Michael telling Bad Janet that they thought they'd be able to handle this, but some of these are unnecessary because it's just, Well, I thought this was going to go okay, but that was until cut right back to what was going on. But it's worth mentioning because Janet has a funny line, like when someone throws up in a bus and someone else smells it and they throw up. Michael says, yes.
Have you ever been around a chain reaction throwing up?
No, but I've seen...
It's not good.
No, but I've like had to leave situations. I've never thrown up because of that, but I've left situations where I felt like that might be possible. Like, put your clothes back on,
Go to
Grandma.
a lot of throw up parties.
We're both gonna throw up.
I like the idea that the grandmother takes off her clothes and is so repulsed by...
Who is that in the mirror?
that she's gonna just...
A lot of Mary Lou. Did we talk about Mary Lou on this earlier?
Yeah,
today?
Mary Lou's been
on this?
A staple. Was that on this or the other thing? That was on the other thing.
That might have just been us talking. Expecting Amish? Never mind. Shout out Mary Lou. Jason walks into Chidi's place and asks him what's up. Chidi's reading the book, and he's discovered that, like Tahani, there's a cowardly character named Four-Eyed Igby, who is just like Chidi. He wears glasses, sweater vests, and never does anything spontaneous or cool. I'm educating you in ethics. What could be cooler than that? Chidi yells. But Jason explains, I'm the guy for trying stuff. When I was back on Earth, everything I did was spontaneous, so I'm your dude. And that's how he got his nickname, the Defendant.
I think that was a funny line.
So Chidi asks what he could do right now. What would be spontaneous? And he suggests they make a list of the 10 most spontaneous things they could do right now and whittle it down. I feel like that's a little bit where I'm Chidi coded.
Over 4 days, let's do something spontaneous. Let's plan it. In 3 months, we will spontaneously do this thing.
Yeah, and we have to be here by here, and we have to do this by this. That's me. But Jason says, no, that's stupid. I have a better idea. Let's dance. They get up and start doing some really awkward movements.
I like it.
It is cute, but their dancing is strange.
Get you out of your head. This is how we defeat Igby, the no fun nerd.
Yeah. No, Igby, move.
There you go.
I've never heard this before. Who is it?
Me. I wrote it. The song is called I'll Love You Forever. Parentheses, make that booty bounce in the back. Oh, fun fact, the police sirens in the background are real. I was being chased as I recorded it.
Okay.
And for a second, Chidi lets it all go and starts moving. But of course, that comes back to bite him because they see a shocked John watching in the doorway. Finally, John has some real stuff to do in this episode. And I think it's really great to have him be the one that, of course, figures out a secret and has to keep it when that's so unlike him to keep any secret.
Well, I think one of the best things this episode does is instead of just having one of the experiment subjects interact with like one of the original gang, we actually get to see the humans interact with each other a lot more. Like, I think we've only seen John talking to Janet or Tahani so far. And so
we talked a little bit last week, they're not doing a lot with Brent and John or Simone, but when they speak up with a line, it's really funny. Here, all those characters get something important to do, which is nice.
Agreed.
Bad Janet interrupts and says, oh, can't you just skip to the end? Which I get. But Michael needs to tell the whole story. But Janet says, every story about humans ends the same way. Just tell me how they screwed up and put me out of my misery. But Michael stresses to not judge them yet. He's spent a lot more time with them. This is when the debate between the characters gets a little more interesting. Bad Janet poses that she knows everything that they've all done. Has a really funny line about, do you know what's going on Earth right now? Wars, murders, women in $400 yoga pants that refuse to vaccinate their children, vindictive nerds at Apple are changing the charger cable shape again. And then a joke that with a lot of buildup that I don't think pays off. How she goes, and much like the song hated by everybody that's used in every movie, I think they could have picked a better song than Bad to the Bone.
I think so as well.
And Michael's line of the good benefit of the doubt had like one too many stutter words in it.
Dave Chappelle did that joke in 2006.
Steven, big Kanye defender, big Dave Chappelle defender. Oof. You and Brent, not so
famous
different.
Famous Dave Chappelle defender, Stephen Baker.
He continues to tell his story, Michael does, and Janet has a big sigh. After Janet sighs, there's a commercial break, but then it goes right back to them talking and the thing. And Michael explains that keeping a secret will be really tough for John. He says, in one way you could say the gossip toilet was about to overflow. Does that make sense to you? Bad Janet says, oh, no, I do understand that now. Thank you for putting it that way. So cut back to John freaking out and saying, who else knows about this? Is it just him? He gasps, is it an exclusive? And Chidi tells him that it is, but they have to keep it that way because they don't know what would happen to Jason if anybody finds out. But John's got some good points about how boring the neighborhood has been and how bored he's been and how this is finally something exciting and he has to just not do anything with it, much like season 4 of Downton Abbey.
Have you ever watched Downton Abbey?
Beautifully designed, but a real snooze fest. No, and I don't think I ever will.
Me neither.
No.
Well, you're going to be totally lost in my Downton Abbey themed birthday party.
What do you think about Chidi's idea for getting John to be quiet? Jason's going to teach him how to do the Magic Mike body roll.
I like it. I think it's worth it.
As a professional dancer, how did you feel about Jason's demonstration?
Good body rolling.
He had a lot of rolls going on.
Yeah, I liked it.
Mm-hmm. Tahani and Simone now are with each other, and Tahani has gotten into kind of making fun of Brent just a little bit. They're sharing passages from Brent's book. They're reading through it and learning that he solves the murder that the story is based around on page 10. The killer was Luis, the valet, and it's so Chip can make it to golf o'clock on his Rolex, which is real, by the way. And they're like, what would the rest of the book be about? But I think if I was reading that book, I'd be like, nice. This book is going to be awful and fun. What
I would
happens
love to read that book.
The rest of the 300 pages? Eleanor walks up to say hello, and Simone tells her what they're doing, that they're reading this literature. And Eleanor stands up for Brent a little bit and says that even though, Brent made some bad choices, they should forgive him. And this is one of Simone's strongest moments in a while. Ever since the whole I think everything's fake bit that they've had her for. Her line here is so great when she shoots that down with a hard no.
Yeah.
Sorry, but no, I can't. This book is objectifying, misogynistic, and racist. So why are we still dealing with this shit in The Good Place? When people like him are ignorant jerks, why are people like us asked to forgive him? Also, and this is less important, why is he in a fighter jet for his author photo?
I think that's such a great Simone line that's so specific to the conflict, but also just speaks to the world at large. Guys like Brent in general, and people like Simone in general. I think it's so good, really well written.
Well, and I think how many times, I know I at least have asked this question so many times, like, why is this shit still going on, know? And I think that just speaks to the ultimate frustration of insert, oppressed person here. Like, why even in the best of places, people like this still get to do whatever they want.
And also it makes me think of the whole people of color or people of different gender identities, how they're always being asked to explain things to people that don't get it when they're, go look it up, go don't put that on me. And this reminds me of stuff like that I think a lot of white people will be like, oh, well, they won't even tell me why this is going on. That's so off-putting. But no, it's way more off-putting that you go to the black person or the queer person that and say, well, explain why I don't know. It's very frustrating and annoying. And I think this line speaks to that really well. Eleanor can answer the author photo question. It's because he really likes Top Gun, but she needs to go consult with immortal beings before she can answer the first one. That's a big question. I don't blame Eleanor. The white woman posing as an all-knowing being is like, I'll think about that. Let me get back to you on that big problem. What do you think of Michael and Brent's golf trip, and specifically Michael's golf outfit?
I love it. I think it's great. As someone who has now golfed twice, great clothes, great fit, Michael. I'd ride around. I'd smack a couple balls with him.
And how?
What's the John Daly quote?
Golf buddies?
Well, you have
we'll
had
that.
the
Something
same
about butt munch.
Yeah.
Yeah. John Daly once said to David Lee Roth at the 2002 Chili Pro-Am in Orlando, suck on this drive, butt munch.
Do you know who John Daly is?
They weren't talking about golf, though. No, I know who David Lee Roth is. I don't know who John Daly is.
John Daly was a golfer, but he was like the bad boy of golfing. He could hit it really hard, and he'd say whatever he wanted.
I thought that this scene really had shades of Michael when he was going back to Earth all the time to try to be wise sage to the humans. And I love seeing Michael fall back into this mode. He just starts by saying stuff like, and if you make a mistake, you always have a chance to redeem yourself, which gives us the David Lee Roth, John Daly interaction.
He's like, and if ever, if this helps out anywhere else in your life.
Brent takes his shot and he hits it and it doesn't go in the hole, but it like goes around like it's being flushed down a toilet into the hole. And he congratulates himself, but Michael steps in and suggests, and this is so, of course, someone like Brent would be able to golf all the time and just make every shot because there's a filter on. And Michael suggests that they try playing old school with the assistant's filter turned off. And of course, when he does turn it off and Brent takes a shot again, he totally biffs it.
Fuck! You sneezed, man.
I don't think I sneezed because I literally can't.
Well, somebody sneezed. Damn it!
Michael tells him, no, you hit a bad shot, and that's okay. Not a sign of weakness to admit you made a mistake. It's fine. Fine, whatever, I shanked it. Brent, okay, I guess I admitted a little bit. So Michael says, you know what, let's go find your ball and bring it back here or go to the next one and try to do better on the next shot. And if this ends up applying, like you pointed out, any other aspect in your life, then cool, he says. That's like passive-aggressive parent trying to give you a parable. Like, and if you think of this later, then... Michael tells Bad Janet that he thought that this was really going to help. I think he says it'll stop the bleeding with Brent. And Bad Janet calls Michael out on that for thinking that was just going to fix everything. And Michael says, what can I say? I'm an optimist.
Bad Janet's like, you thought one soft mention of a metaphor was going to do it?
He's an optimist. But 2 days later, he admits, at the event, it fell apart almost immediately. At the book event, I fucking love the Top Gun Brent Norwalk logo.
So funny.
I love that so much. And when this episode first aired, I hadn't seen Top Gun. But last year, because I'm an Oscar boy, I watched both Top Gunses. And I wonder what Brent would have thought about Top Gun Maverick. He would have been really excited, I bet.
Zachary Oscar Boy Pruitt.
Yes. That's what they call me.
Everyone calls him that.
Well, that's one of the things that some people have called me. They call me a lot else. Chidi thanks John at the event for not telling anyone about Jason. And John says, well, yeah, thanks to Tahani, I know that gossip is bad. But on the other hand, I've got this tea and I just got to spill it. How are you with that, with keeping secrets these days? Do you have people that you're like, I've just got to unload?
Well, I tell Danny pretty much everything.
Right.
But I can keep secrets from everyone else.
I wonder if we've ever said anything on here that we shouldn't have. Do you think that's possible?
I'm sure.
Do you think
that
maybe
we've ever said something we shouldn't? I'm sure.
Ever? I want there to be a Zach and Steven out of context Twitter so bad that I've thought about just starting it myself. Yeah. Because there are some... they're like just one sentence. There was one in the last one where I was like talking about being fucked from behind by something. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, pin tweet me saying that I hope the queen burns in hell. That was a fun day.
But that has all the context you need. You stand by that.
I stand by that.
Chidi reminds John what Kant once said, it is your duty to keep your friends' secrets. And I think there's truth to that. But John says, my favorite philosopher, Bethany Frankel, would say, I have a duty to mention it all. And if you can't handle the truth, you can't handle me. Which also has some truth to it.
Yeah.
Chidi stresses,
you can handle the truth.
I think maybe you should go Kant and not Frankel, Chidi says. But John has to have something to gossip about, like how he learned who wears the same dumb shorts every day. And Chidi says, who? And John says, dumb shorts Kathy. Also, elsewhere at the event, Eleanor runs up to Simone with ideas to her question. She says, sorry it took me so long. Those ancient scrolls were very hard to roll back up.
So, Eleanor thinks Simone should tell Brent, but not what Simone wants to tell Brent. She thinks she should tell her
what... Not that it sucks very hard.
Yes.
She thinks Simone should stand up and tell Brent to be a little more subtle. Cut to the girls walking up and Brent saying, here they are, Charlie's Angels, as they show up to their post.
Goes, ooh. I think is it Michael that goes, ooh, when he says that?
These scenes, it's the scene and another scene a little later where they're all talking and stuff finally starts being let out. These are where the episode really shines. He asked them, so what did you think of the book? And Tahani says, very interesting word choices. I've never seen the word pants tent used so many times. Well, I just thought that's what the Surgeon General would say in that moment. What else? More complos. And Simone says what we get when people are like, I listened to your podcast. And I'm like, oh yeah, cool. What did you think? Just that you do it is so great that you just do that. Simone says, just writing a book is an amazing accomplishment. And that goes over Brent's head. He says, you bet your butt it is. The story is incredible too. Chip solves the mystery on page 10. Greatest detective ever. He tells the girls to hop on up there, and I say the girls, but Chidi is also part of it. He tells the girls to hop up there and speak
Chidi's
from
one of
the
the
heart
girls.
about how it's their favorite book ever. But Simone can't take this. Eleanor tries to stop her, but she steps forward to complain about this character that's so clearly based on Tahani and is very unflattering. Brent says, not flattering. I said she's got huge ones. Ultimate complo. And Michael tries to step in as wise sage. Now remember, maybe something from earlier about making bad mistakes and taking another shot. But Brent is shocked that others are like, you agree with her on this one? I didn't know I was going to get called out by the PC police. That was the line that stung the most here because that's what these people would say. It's not a joke. That's just truth.
You know, I was going to give you 10% off the cover price, but now you're going to have to pay the full $65 like everybody else.
There's no money here.
Book event is canceled because of these mean women.
And he goes off. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, I did too.
Back in the office, Tahani thinks that she can maybe get Simone to handle this the British way. I didn't write down the whole line, but it definitely ends with getting over it slowly across 50 years.
Standing in a drizzle for 50 years while it melts away your sadness.
Yes. Eleanor says F that, though, and that Brent is the problem. He needs to change, and they need to stop walking on eggshells around him. She says something like, we need to throw the egg directly in his face. And Michael finally agrees. Their time for the experiment is halfway over, and Brent needs to improve. So Michael asks our Janet, the good Janet, where he is now, and she says, take a guess. Cut back to the golf scene. Michael says, what's up, buddy? Grippin' and rippin'? But it seems like, according to Brent, that the big dog don't want to hunt today. What does that mean?
It means his driver is not hitting straight and true, Zach. He's shanking left and right due to his lack of talent. Vis-a-vis, the big
That's
dog
affecting the big
don't
dog.
want to hunt
He's
today.
very
Oh,
upset. Because Simone was very mean to him and maybe a little racist. Michael says to take it easy. Art is subjective. Everyone has different takes. But more importantly, and this is something that, oh man, I hope a lesson that I've learned better, but was a big 2020 white people guilt awakening moment for me. There was hopefully when someone says you've hurt people and you need to take responsibility, hopefully we as a people, even if we feel like that's wrong, can hear that and think, well, why did I make someone feel that way? And how can I help? Even if I don't totally understand, instead of going right to being what Brent is, which is very defensive. He can't take it.
Yeah.
So he tells Brent to come back, apologize, and take the first right step towards healing the neighborhood. Brent agrees. He says, yeah, I'll do exactly what my dad did when he took on all those class action lawsuits. Cut to a cute little scene with Chidi and Simone, and I like when we see them unpacking their day with each other.
Yeah.
Chidi's talking about getting through to Brent, and Simone still doesn't know why. Why are you trying to get through to Brent? Why are you trying to help him? Chidi says, he did call me a four-eyed coward who probably dry humps books, but why not be the bigger person? And Simone speaks so much truth in this episode, saying that I think it sends a bad message that it's okay to treat people that way, and it isn't. She says really cutely, it's not okay to treat Tahani that way, it's not okay to treat me that way, and it's not okay to treat you that way, Igby. And they both laugh at it. Igby. Really cute. Michael, back at the event, gathers everyone around so Brent can apologize. I think these are some of my favorite lines in the entire episode. Brent says, regarding my critically acclaimed novel, I'm very sorry if you were offended. Okay? But Simone does not accept. And so he tries again. Okay, fine, sure. I'm sorry if what I wrote, which was perfectly okay, somehow made you feel like it wasn't okay. But you know what? That's on you. And Michael, again, as a sage, tries to redirect him, and Simone speaks up and says, apologize for real or stop wasting all of our time. And Brent says, yeah, you know what? I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry at all. Is that what you want to hear? Eleanor says, very obviously not.
Eleanor doesn't get a ton in this episode. Like, she's through it the whole time, but that line was really, really funny.
She's trying to calm everybody down, suggests maybe they take a break and grab a snack, but Brent says, no, I want a complo. Give me some more complos. And Tahani's got one. One of my favorite Tahani lines from the episode. I didn't think it was possible to write a book as awful as yours. I literally didn't think human beings were capable of such racist, sexist poppycock. Also, Chip Driver is a private eye or a quarterback for the Chicago Bears or the world's strongest president. He cannot be all three. Bert scoffs, calls it a disgrace. I accomplished something. I wrote a novel, and now it's being attacked? Big J.K. Rowling energy.
Yeah. She's like, I made Dumbledore gay. What more do you want?
Oh my God. So true. I don't have a racist, sexist bone in my body. I'm in the good place. Ever heard of it? And his whole meltdown is really great. I deserve to be here. I'm here because I earned it by being the best.
Is this where you thought something was going to happen that didn't, Zach?
Very soon. It's building up to that. Simone calls Brent ridiculous. And then Brent, even though it's a Good Place censor, he calls her a bitch, and it takes the air out of the room. It's like when that type of guy talks to a woman that way.
Exactly.
I love John's face when he says that. John has a really good reaction. Oh, and Chidi steps in. He tries to calm it down with philosophy, but Brent shuts that down and calls him Igby. You probably didn't know this, but that character's based on you. Chidi a second ago talking philosophy like said enough of a thing to summon a book, and then it comes back and it hits Brent in the ass, and Brent says, I'm being attacked again. Chidi tries to apologize, but Brent shoves him, and then Chidi comes through and punches Brent square in the face. That's been being held back for a long time, and for Chidi to be the one to break and punch him. He sends Brent into this table, scattering golf balls all over, and Eleanor says, I'm thinking bagel bites as the snack. It was more here. I just felt like this was so much chaos that one of the humans was gonna, probably Simone was gonna be like, this is not the good place.
This can't be the
bad
place.
place.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe this was that moment, and Simone would have an Eleanor moment, because I am foggy about what happens here.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been a good
also felt
one.
like this was building to that.
If anything, I think it would have made the framing device make more sense, because it's building to this
absolutely.
really big thing that happened. Instead of just building to a kind of nice thing that happens at the end with Michael and Janet. Bad Janet is saying back in the cell, middle-aged American male fragility. You know why they're called baby boomers, right? Because the tiniest little pinprick to their ego, and boom, they become babies. So Michael says they were forked, and they spent 6 months on this experiment. It was all for nothing. Bad Janet says humans suck. But Michael says, that's where you're wrong, because this story has one more chapter. Stuff like that the framing device didn't need. Just cut to the chapter.
I didn't care for that line.
You could have even just had Michael like smile knowingly while she talks about how bad humans are, and then cut to the humans proving her wrong. They're in the office, and I actually really like this scene.
I do too.
Eleanor is saying how today was very bad and everybody lost points, and she doesn't really have a solution. And immediately we're reminded that even though we're so focused on those 4 humans, this has been the story for the last 4 seasons of 4 different humans. And this shows us just how much progress these people have made, that they will not give up. They don't have a solution, but Tahani speaks up and says, okay, we'll reset.
I'll do something mildly iffy and let John make a small, good decision to help. I could tell him I'm going to get the ombre highlights and let him talk me out of it.
What's wrong with ombre highlights?
Eleanor, please. This week has been hard enough.
Jason suggests he could set his robes on fire to get Brent to put it out. And Eleanor comments, well, that's a very Jason thing. Of course, you think you look dope with flaming robes, but actually, that's not a bad idea. It's something that will get Brent to do a good deed without thinking about it, because you just put out the fire. Tahani wants to convince Chidi maybe to run a class on empathy, and hopefully that'll pull through and reach out to people and make some leeway. And Eleanor says, yeah, you guys are right, and goes to start writing things down. They've got time, she says. They're no longer in, fuck, we're halfway out. We've lost time. She says, we've got time. We're going to figure this out. We can get it back on track.
And I feel like this is such a good representation of the point Michael's making with all this. But when Michael was in charge, he would have resetted, he would have reset the experiment. He would have snapped his fingers as soon as Chidi threw a punch.
Resets, yes, after 800 resets, he wouldn't wait for the I know what's going on here moment like we were.
Yeah.
He would have said, well, this one's fucked.
And it just shows that immediately they were down for a couple minutes, but they know what's at stake. And they're like, oh, we don't have an option. Like, failure is not an option.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think that reads through in the main character here pretty well, in the scene specifically.
It subtly stresses to the audience that, like, this reminds us of previous times, but this isn't like previous times because this is the last time. There have been so many times it's like, they can't fuck this up or else it's all over. This is that time. They can't fuck this up or else it's all over.
Yeah.
I feel like all of a sudden we're at the end of the episode really quickly. I think the second half of this episode is great. I think the first half is good, but I think the second half is great. Because even the way we end the episode, I don't mind that this episode doesn't really end with a cliffhanger. I kind of like this final scene that tells us at least Michael's point this whole time. I don't think it needed to be framed around him telling Janet the whole story. I think it could have just been in the middle of all of this, he's been going to visit Bad Janet and they've been debating. I don't think it needs to be, I'm holding this story over your head before I let you go, because I don't think the story really has that much weight to it overall, to Bad Janet, to the bad place. I think it's more, I'm going to get a few jabs in and I'm going to give you this book, and the thing I'm holding over you is that I'm just going to let you go. I think if that was more the tension, which it is in this last scene, it would have been a little better.
Well, and neither of us prefer the tell, don't show, and there's a lot of tell, don't show exclusively in the Michael Bad Janet part where he's like, well, we tried to turn you to our side. That didn't work. And like, when the fuck did that happen? You know, like last we saw her, she was magneted to a refrigerator. And now she's been in here for
just a little bit like there's an episode missing.
Or
Not
if we had just ended the last episode with Janet coming and then putting Bad Janet in her void and Michael being, well, maybe we can get her to help us. Or something like that. But just the fact,
it miffs me a little that there's no mention of what's going on with our Janet because of what she just went through, or Jason talking about what he's just gone through.
It's been 6 months. We don't know what
That's true. And I get that they skipped a lot of time and that they have to. I think it's something that even a line could have fixed. I didn't need a whole scene.
Exactly.
That's fresh on my mind because it's not been 6 months for us. We watched that episode last week. And it felt like it was leading up to some things in some of those storylines. And we don't even get like romantic tension between Jason and Janet.
Not even anything. Like a little smile or like a touch going, nothing.
Nearby.
Anything. Yeah. Even like Janet being extra happy for Jason winning his award. Like she's pretty evenly excited through the whole scene, so it doesn't
they don't do anything wrong, and if this had been an episode more removed from that, I think it would have been fine. This final scene, Michael tells Bad Janet that what just happened with the humans was an hour ago, and it convinced him that things were going to turn around, so he went right to Bad Janet to tell the story. He says that he and Bad Janet, like you said, we've never heard this before, that they've been debating whether people are good or bad for 6 months. But it's because we didn't see those 6 months. But I would have liked if we had gotten something to show us that. The idea that Michael is going to talk to Bad Janet more for himself than for her because he likes having these debates with her and stuff like that, I think they could have done just a little bit more. Even maybe it goes against what I've been saying this whole time, but maybe this episode works better if more of it is Michael telling Janet the story and them debating, kind of like in Eleanor and Michael in the bar debating intention last season. Maybe that would have been even better. They've been debating this for 6 months, but Michael realized that watching the humans dust themselves off made him realize that what really matters, and this is a great Michael line, is that those humans are trying to be better today than they were yesterday. That's where his hope comes from for the new humans. He shuts down the cell. I think it's a cool visual, and sends Bad Janet home.
I tried to win you over to our side. It hasn't worked. So keeping you as a prisoner just seems cruel. Letting you go home is how I've decided to be a little better today than I was yesterday.
He gives her phone back, which I think is funny. She goes right to scrolling through her phone. Very Jeff Winger. Gives her the book, which was mentioned earlier. Not Brent's book, she asks. I didn't have any cash on me. I can get you a copy. It's a manifesto of everything that's happened with the humans from day one. He says, I like this as a bit of exposition that we're like, how is it up to the moment if this is the manifesto that they wrote or something? But he says, Janet and I wrote this together a while back and she's been updating it ever since. I like that line. That gives me some information. All he doesn't even say, go take this to your boss and show what we're doing and then be scared. He just says, I hope you'll read it. And in turn, hopefully she'll go and be better the next day than she was before. And Bad Janet doesn't say anything really, it just ends. This interaction just ends. And I don't hate that it just ends. She says, yeah, people that get books as gifts always read them. Bye. She leaves. And then Michael Lysol's the cell. And the episode ends. What do you think about how they choose to end this episode? They don't end it with the big, boy, guys, I figured it out, we're in the bad place. They end it with a moral quandary.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I think I'll know how I feel about the ending when I see how next week starts.
That's always
if
how
everything
it is
just fine, back to normal, reset, I'd be kind of curious how they smoothed over the fact that Chidi punched out Brent and that he called Simone a bench.
Or to get back to Janet and Jason, get back to some of those character dynamics.
So I'm curious to see how that kind of gets resolved, because if they kind of walk over it, then I would have liked to see something in this week's. But I think overall the episode's really good, and I like the ending, and I think that if I remember... I don't remember a ton of specifics about how the book or the manifesto impacts the next couple episodes, but I know that it has to have something to do with it. And so for that regard, I like it, because I think that it's kind of like, listen, this is the truth, this is everything, the good, the bad, the failure, the success. And I like that that's going to be the, it makes everything matter that's happened so far, and I like things that make everything matter.
And I also like that it doesn't end with Michael saying, take it back. I like that it lets you put some of that together, that now it's Chekhov's book. The book is there. Someone's going to read it.
Someone's got to shoot that book off in the next act. It's got to happen.
Well, I feel like we learned a lot today going through this episode. We learned about snow bunnies.
Vocabulary.
Yeah, we learned a lot today, and I think it was a good episode. After last week's episode, I was a little bit nervous that season 4 was going to have a smaller version of the season 3 dip. And it doesn't. I think this episode shows me that I shouldn't be, that it's good. I think maybe when this first aired, I would have included this as a slight dip. I don't anymore. I think this is a good episode.
I agree.
Well, before we do our last segments and get out of here, I just want to mention that next week we'll be back to talk about season 4, episode 7. That's the halfway point of the final season is season 7, with Help As Other People. I don't remember based off the episode, other than maybe this is the one.
I think it is.
Exciting. I'm excited for that, then for real. And then I think the 7 episodes after that are just going to be amazing.
I don't know if I'm emotionally ready.
Before we end this episode, let's do our Good Place, Bad Place, starting with the Bad Place, which I think is like it's a no-brainer. No?
You think so? You go
Brent.
First.
I'll give it to Brent because I don't see what anybody else does that's bad, and he doesn't learn any important lessons.
Yeah, I agree. I want to give an honorable mention, and this is just because of a little thing. I almost considered Tahani this week because
she gives in and starts talking shit.
Exactly. That's my only thing. Simone doesn't know the weight of what bad behavior can have. Tahani does all too well. And I didn't love that, but I think Tahani has a strong enough rest of the episode, and her being the one to first get the idea of, at the end of like, okay, I'm going to do this so that John does something good. I'm going to get things going the right direction. She understands that. And John even saying in the episode, Tahani kind of showed me that I was using gossip in this way and that I shouldn't really be doing it, but I got to spill the tea. But I think
Tahani
that
has
gets
big
her
impact
points.
in a positive way now.
And I didn't want to pick Brent at first because
too easy.
He doesn't do anything unsurprising until he calls Simone a bench. And that's what takes it over. So I think he does get the bad place for me this week. I had originally been leaning to Tahani.
But even the content of his book is bad.
It's bad, but it's expected.
I like that you bring up the Tahani point. That is a good point, but I don't think it can go to anyone but Brent in this episode.
I think I know who you picked for your Good Place, but I'm curious to hear if my guess was right.
I don't think I know who I picked for the Good Place.
Oh, really? Do you want me to tell you who I think you're going to pick?
No, because I want to pick... Give me a respite to decide. I don't want you to inform my choice, because I want to see if it lines up with what you think, okay? Mm-hmm. I think the Good Place this week should go to... Oh, Simone.
Yeah.
Because she is speaking not only to the truth in the Good Place, but just to the truth in the universe and telling the characters and the audience things that they need to hear.
Yeah. I had a little tougher time this week with the Good Place too, because I think that a couple people have good weeks. I think honestly Jason has a pretty good week helping Chidi, and he's
having positive impact while still being Jason.
Exactly. I think that Eleanor has a quiet good week, even though she doesn't make any huge impact moments, but she's constantly trying to have people do the right thing, even when people that are on her, like in her crew, are not. I think Michael has a good week because he's very optimistic, believing in the humans, and he's actively trying to help Bad Janet be less bad. I think Simone does have a good week, even though she's a little bit gossipy, mean girly, but with good reason. Like, I would also be ripping this book to shreds and shit talking it like crazy.
Oh,
but
my God.
Still, she was planning to do that the second that it was she hadn't opened it yet, but just knowing that it was him. And she speaks pretty condescendingly to him, even though it's kind of jokey at the beginning.
It's so earned, and I'm the type of person that isn't going to... I don't think she did anything really that inappropriate, other than talking behind a back. It didn't hold me back enough.
But I'm going to land on my Good Place this week being my knight in shining sweater vest, four-eyed Igby himself, Chidi, because that man needed to be punched in the face, and Chidi's the only one who was going to do it. So Chidi, I think that pushes him over the edge, because hitting is bad, but he can hit.
Holding
at
back
that
Simone.
Low rate, he can hit.
Listen to me. You're holding back Simone for the same reason you're rewarding Chidi, because he was the one willing to say or do what needed to be done towards Brent. Why is it a bad thing for Simone, but a good thing for Chidi to commit violence?
In reaction to
in its own
a
way,
bad thing Brent
that's the worst thing Chidi's done this entire show, based on his ethics and morals.
Simone's was based on her already established feelings towards Brent, whereas Chidi's were brought upon by a reaction defending somebody close to him, which is why Chidi's is less bad than Simone's.
I wanted to test it a little bit. I don't think that's a bad answer. But Chidi totally, he turned one cheek and then he turned the other cheek, then he turned around and did a butt cheek, then he turned that butt cheek. And after he was like, I cannot turn any more cheeks. He's like, you need to, I can't even help it. It just comes out of him. He just punches him.
And at that hot bod physique, he can hit. Chidi's
like I said, we'll be back next week to talk about Help As Other People. I'm very excited to see what happens in this episode. And I'm very excited, of course, soon to tell you guys the third of 4 options for what our next podcast will be. You'll find that out sooner than you did between the first and second. It's going to be soon before you know. And before too long, we'll start talking about that vote and when it's going to happen and when you'll be able to choose our next show, because our episodes of The Good Place are running out.
Yeah, sprint to the polls, run to the polls. Not your gerrymandered societal poll, our poll. The only vote that matters in 2024. What will our next podcast be?
We're either just about to or just past a year of Into the Time Knife.
Wow, happy birthday.
Let's see. Yeah, January 16th. Yeah. It's been a year of this show. I think it's been one of my favorite years of podcasting. And before we know it, it's going to be time to wrap this show up. And I'm both excited to get to the end of The Good Place and sad a little bit that this thing that we built here on Into the Time Knife over the last year doesn't get to live on with 100 episodes of The Good Place.
You know, maybe the real Good Place was the friends
the pod we made along the way. If you like what we do here, if you have a fun time talking about TV with us every week, consider supporting us over at patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. The Basement is a lot of fun. It's a rewatch podcast of That 70s Show, but it's not as intensely line to line as these. It's really Steven and I having a circle session and then waxing nostalgic about a show that we loved as a kid that sometimes doesn't hold up the way that we thought it did as a kid. That's been a lot of fun. I hope you join us there, along with You Can't Diss a Pre-Show, which is a very fun little morning talk show that we do before we record the podcast. And it really came out of the idea that Steven and I would always talk about something for like 30 minutes before hitting record. So that's what that show is now. And then we still end up talking for like 30 minutes after that before we record. So check that out and get your early access to this show. Listen to us talk about Help As Other People already over at patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. Steven.
Go there. Where
else can the people find us?
If you really want to, ride an hour. Yeah, if you want to hunt our big dogs, make sure you go follow us over on Twitter and Instagram. It's absolutely free. Follow us over at Time Knife Pod, or come check out the video companion of this podcast. Woo! I might have just flashed.
Check out my
Who
cool
knows?
shirt. I'll give you
over
a full
on YouTube.
view.
Yeah,
The
Zach's
Muppets
shirt's really
are
cool.
Punk.
I've got a do-rag on. My hair's short now. You'll see it next week, maybe.
That's
I've
a
got
little
on
tease.
a shirt. See what's going
Thankfully.
on in our woods. If any
For once,
special
Steven threw a
visitors, we've got a
shirt on before the
Gooby and a
podcast.
Bart over there.
Always.
But come check us out on YouTube. Search the name of the show. We've got lots of fun stuff there, including like random celebrity interviews that we've done in the past.
We need to get on that. We need to send some emails and do some stuff.
Yeah, we do. Let's see what old Kristen Bell's up to.
Yeah.
She's trying
Ted Danson's not busy, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's sitting around. So come check that out. YouTube, comment. That's the best way to interact with us. One of the ways.
Even as we've proven with other podcasts that we can have a conversation with some bigger names, I think out of respect and embarrassment, I don't know if I would even send a message to Ted Danson's people. I have a lot of respect.
Trust yourself?
I have a lot of respect for that guy. I think we're way too silly to have like a television legend like Ted Danson come on. It'd be like if we had Dick Van Dyke on and started talking to him about Baldos.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're working Baldos. That really set things off for you, right?
I have a riff. I'd like to take us out of the podcast this week, if it's okay with you.
Sure, riff away.
From inside Chip Driver's 1968 Cadillac, Black Lives Matter, I'm Zach.
I'm Steven.
And we love you very much. We'll see you next week. I'm going to play Highway to the Danger Zone as we end the podcast.
You're not going to play Bad to the Bone?